Deep in the heart of Japan, at the base of Mount Fuji, lies a forest unlike any other. A place where the trees grow so thick they block out the sun, where the silence is so heavy it feels like the forest itself is holding its breath. This is Aokigahara, known to many as the suicide forest. For centuries, this dense woodland has been shrouded in mystery and tragedy. It's a place where the line between the living and the dead blurs, where whispers echo through the trees, and where those who enter don't always return. Tonight, we bring you the story of Haruto, a man who ventured into Aokigahara seeking answers, and found something far more terrifying than he ever imagined. This is not just a story, it's a warning, a reminder that some places are better left unexplored. So, sit back, turn down the lights, and let us take you into the heart of the whispering trees. Haruto was a journalist, a man driven by curiosity and a thirst for the truth. He had heard the stories about Aokigahara, the legends of lost souls, the whispers of Eerie ghosts, and the countless people who had disappeared within its depths. But Haruto wasn't afraid. He believed in logic, in facts, in the tangible. One crisp autumn morning, he arrived at the edge of the forest. The air was cold, the sky overcast. A sign at the entrance warned visitors to turn back, but Haruto pressed on. His camera hung around his neck, his notebook tucked into his pocket. He was ready to document everything. As he stepped into the forest, the atmosphere changed instantly. The sunlight faded, replaced by an eerie twilight. The trees grew so close together that their branches intertwined, forming a canopy that blocked out the sky. The ground was uneven, covered in moss and twisted roots. Haruto walked for hours, the forest growing quieter with each step. The only sounds were his footsteps and the occasional rustle of leaves. But then he heard it, a faint whisper, so soft he almost missed it. He stopped, his heart pounding. "Who's there?" he called out, his voice echoing through the trees. There was no response, just the whisper growing louder, more insistent. It sounded like a woman's voice, pleading, begging. Haruto's hands trembled as he raised his camera, scanning the trees. But there was nothing there. The whispers followed Haruto as he ventured deeper into the forest. They seemed to come from all directions, overlapping, growing louder. He tried to ignore them, focusing on his notes, but the voices were impossible to block out. "Help me," one voice pleaded. "Why did you leave me?" Another cried. Haruto's breath quickened. He stumbled over a root, catching himself on a tree. His hand brushed against something soft, a ribbon tied to a branch. He looked around and realized the trees were covered in them, fluttering like ghostly flags. Each ribbon represented a life lost, a soul that had wandered into the forest and never returned. Suddenly, the whispers stopped. The forest fell silent, the air thick with tension. Haruto felt a chill run down his spine. He turned slowly, his camera raised, and saw it, a figure standing between the trees. It was a woman, her hair long and tangled, her white kimono stained with dirt. She didn't move, didn't speak. She just stared at him with hollow eyes. Haruto's heart raced. He snapped a photo, the flash illuminating the forest. When the light faded, the woman was gone. Haruto ran, his camera bouncing against his chest. The forest seemed to close in around him, the trees twisting into grotesque shapes. The whispers returned, louder now, more frantic. "Don't leave me. You'll never escape." He tripped and fell, his hands sinking into the cold, damp earth. When he looked up, he saw them, dozens of figures standing among the trees. Some were men, some were women, all with the same hollow eyes and tattered clothes. They moved toward him, their steps silent, their faces expressionless. Haruto scrambled to his feet, his heart pounding. He turned and ran, but the figures were everywhere, blocking his path. He felt a hand grab his shoulder, cold and bony. He screamed, wrenching himself free, and kept running. Finally, he burst into a clearing. The figures were gone, the whispers silenced. But in the center of the clearing stood a single tree, its branches bare, its trunk covered in carvings. Names, dates, messages, all etched into the bark. Haruto approached the tree, his hands trembling. He read the messages, each one more desperate than the last. "Forgive me. I couldn't go on. I'm sorry." And then at the base of the tree, he saw it, a pair of shoes, neatly placed side by side. Haruto didn't know how long he sat there, staring at the shoes. The forest seemed to close in around him, the air growing colder. He knew he had to leave, but the trees all looked the same. He was lost. As he wandered, the whispers returned, softer now, almost comforting. This way. Follow us. Haruto followed the voices, his steps slow and unsteady. The forest seemed to guide him, the trees parting to reveal a path. Finally, he saw it. The edge of the forest, the sunlight breaking through the trees. He stumbled out of the forest, collapsing onto the ground. The whispers faded, replaced by the sound of birds chirping. Haruto looked back at the forest, its dark silhouette looming against the sky. He never spoke of what he saw that day, but sometimes late at night, he hears the whispers again, calling him back to the forest.